Hey guys, I want to share something very personal and I hope that some of the parents might have a benefit from that. So, um, when I was a kid, my parents divorced, or my father left my mother, and we were left alone. My mom had to take care of 4 kids all by herself, and my father, he wasn't really there anymore. And in this period of my life, I was 4 years old, a lot of things have changed because my entire foundation was suddenly gone, and I had to readapt to the life that I'm having now and to the new circumstances. And before I go further into the story, so this was a very traumatic event for me. It was actually the most significant event that has happened in my childhood, that my father left. And I've been working through so many layers of experiences that I've been making as a child and memories that I had to bring up again and work with to heal from that. And what I realized in this whole trauma is I was the whole time unable to understand what is going on. And that's what a trauma is actually. If you think about the word trauma, trauma is a disrupt or a hurt in a person's system. It can be physical or it can be emotional. And when we look at childhood trauma happens when some challenging things happen to kids that they don't know yet, that they have not experienced yet, and they're not able to process the information. They're not able to mentally process what is going on. So because they're not processing it, they're still feeling emotions, but they don't know what to do with the emotions because often they're lacking the words to express how they feel. So the only thing they can do is throw tantrums, become super emotional, and hope that the parent understands what the child is trying to communicate through the emotions. But often as it happens, parents are also busy, they have to work and all these things, and maybe they don't even understand. So they don't always understand the kids, and that's when a kid often feels unheard or unseen. And this is especially what happens a lot in breakup families, like where one parent divorces or whatever, and the kid that is left without the ability to process what is going on, it has to work with the pain, it has to do something with the pain. And the best mechanism to protect yourself from that pain is to just suppress it, to just put it in a box and store it somewhere else so you don't have to deal with it anymore. Because otherwise your system is always on emergency mode and it doesn't work, it's very draining. So it's a self-protection mechanism to have this childhood trauma, to suppress the trauma that you have. Because a trauma wouldn't be a trauma if you were to just be able to express what is going on, let go of the emotion and forget about it. But that's not how children do it, because they often don't have the words. And that's what I'm referring to. When I was a kid, I was bringing up the memory of how I felt when my father left. And to be honest, there were so many times where everything was just delayed. So my reactions to the whole thing were just delayed because I was not able to understand what was going on. My parents tried to explain to me what was going on. Like they were trying to explain me, hey, your father's about to leave, he will find a new job and he will provide for the family and so on and so on and so on. But for me as a kid, I didn't know any of those words, so I couldn't really connect the dots. I couldn't really understand what the reason was my father was leaving, and I couldn't really understand why everything would change all of a sudden. Also how the dynamics between the children, me, my siblings, and my mom would change. How my mom would have to go more into survival mode because all of a sudden there is no man to rely on anymore, and all of a sudden she has to take care of everything, which is way too much for one woman. So the whole dynamic changed over the years, and I had this constant feeling of, so I'm just rephrasing, or I'm just summarizing what I brought up by writing about it in introspection, because this point was, or like this experience was so deeply suppressed, I couldn't even access it for the most parts of my life. I had to work with the right tools, and I had to get myself the right words so that I can actually describe the feelings that I've been having back then, because I didn't have the words. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't have the words So I was unable to understand what was going on. I was unable to understand and process the information that was given to me, like my parents talking to me and explaining the situation to me. And at the same time, I was unable to express what I'm feeling. So I was constantly left, and I remember this was a period of 1 to 2, I think even 3 years, from like 4 to 7, 8, where I was not able to tell and communicate how I feel. And the only thing I could do was throw tantrums. So that's the only thing I had when I was a child. The only way I knew how to express my feelings was to throw tantrums. So it was actually a scream for help. I was getting angry all the time, and I was projecting my anger onto everybody in my family, but nobody seemed to understand me. And the more I was misunderstood, the more I got frustrated and angry, and it was a repetitive cycle, and it would never stop. But actually, the only thing that I was lacking was words, because I didn't have the words to describe how I'm feeling. I didn't have the words to process the pain of my parents separating. And this is a trauma that has affected me my entire life. It has affected me in the way I search for a partner, the way I build relationships, and even my deepest sense of self-esteem. Because naturally, what does a child do when the parents divorce? Children always think everything is about them. So they project blame onto themselves. They feel guilty. And even the word guilt, I had to look at the word guilt so many times because I had to redefine it. I see that I didn't really understand the word guilt. I was using it in my everyday language, but I was not aware of the true meaning of it and how guilt can come up in a child when a parent divorces or when one parent leaves. And the reason I'm making this video and I'm telling this personal story about myself is because I see this in a lot of kids when I see divorced parents. Kids that are having either delayed or very intense emotions, and they're not able to express them. And that's the problem that kids have, because they don't have the vocabulary, they don't have the words to express how they feel. That's why they have childhood trauma. It's not per se the situation of like the breakup or the divorce. It's just the inability to understand what is going on, and which translates into your whole sense of stability, and what is right and what is wrong is completely twisted. So at some point, it's just when you don't have the right words as a kid, it's just a product of coincidence whether or not your life is going to be good or not, because you cannot really take any influence of it. So what I did, I worked with Technitutor, and I was walking the process. And what I'm doing now is I'm re-educating myself. I'm giving myself all the words that I was not having as a kid. And whenever I go into new words, or words that I know that I have to redefine, I see, okay, hold on, I don't understand this word. Let me try to get more understanding about this word. And the more words I'm building, the more I can restore the memories that I've been having, and the more my childhood makes sense. And that's the moment where you can let go. Because I see, whenever I understand something that has happened back in the past, I can let go. I can stop participating in it. I can stop letting that event determine my life. And that is what healing is. So parents, if you're going through divorce, your child really urgently needs words. Or otherwise, it's going to be really difficult to manage and direct a life as an adult.